Welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the book started right for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much for being part of Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself, Master Eric?
All right, thank you so much, Daniel, for having me on. My name's Eric Mulvin. I am based out in sunny Phoenix, Arizona, and for the last roughly 14 years or so, I've been running my own companies out here, building up businesses. With the last 10 to 11 years being the company you see on the screen, PackBiz Outsourcing, call center outsourcing company out in the Philippines, where we have over 200 employees doing outsourced support for companies across the US, Canada, and the UK.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Master Eric. Thank you. And today let's talk about the 10-year journey scaling with AI teams and no outside funding. So tell us what it's all about and take us up the beginning. What was the initial non-negotiable core belief about your product or services that made you confident you can scale without outside funding?
All right, yeah. Well, I grew up here. My parents, I didn't come from some business background. My parents weren't business owners or have a lot of money. In fact, I grew up in the first couple years of my life. We lived in a trailer home in South Phoenix, which, for those of you who know the Phoenix area, not the first place that you'd think of to raise a family. And but grew up. My dad was he actually worked in a industry that no longer exists, and it didn't while he was in it. It's actually really interesting. I think it relates to the whole AI conversation because he was a tool and die maker. Probably don't even most of you don't even know what that was. It was automated when I was in high school, back in the early 2000s and the late 90s, and his job was replaced with automation already back then. So I got to see that early on and see him lose his job, and he went into early retirement. But grew up from that and had no money. So I found a business partner that had a business, and he believed in what I was doing. I was doing marketing, and that was kind of the start. He invested into the first business I had, which was a taxi cab company, and so yeah, that's how we got started. And I had a partner with that where we worked together, but we didn't have any funding. I was able to build the whole business, the company that PackBiz Outsourcing, with the 200 employees. We got an office with 130 seats, uh, operations across the Philippines. That was built from all of our own existing operations, all of our existing revenue. So no outside funding, no outside investment. And in fact, almost to the day, 5 years ago, that partner I had, we were 50-50 partners, and we reached an agreement for me to buy him out so that it was just me being the sole owner of the company, because I really felt I could take this thing so much further on my own, and take that 50% and help the company grow even more. And then you asked another question about what was my non-negotiables and what were the things that really was my beliefs in with this business. And for me, um, I graduated from college. I went to a business school, and I always say that I knew I wanted to start a business one day. I just don't know what. And I went around, and later on, I eventually added, but I want to get into an industry I could disrupt. And so people wonder, like, today I'm 40 years old. When I first started my first taxi cab company, I was like 26 years old. People are like, what were you doing? Like, starting a taxi company, like, of all things. There's so many other businesses that people our age would start. Taxi cab is the last you could think of. But before I even heard of Uber, I had my own idea for my own app, and I have 50 pages of notes in a notebook of an app that looks just like Uber, where you could book a ride, it'll call the taxi. And despite everything with Uber, we went forward with our own plans, and we had the first app in Arizona in 2012. worked with a startup out of Germany that did the dispatch software. And in 2012, before Uber, back then Uber wasn't even in the market in Phoenix, you could download our app and book a ride using the app without having to call in. Um, so for me, my background from the business school, from and another place I worked at was Yelp. It was all about customer experience. Like at Yelp, people use it to find great businesses, not mediocre. I don't want to go to a place where I'm going to find an okay meal or an okay handyman to fix my house. I want the best. And so I got to work with the best businesses and learn from them. And so all of that combined made me make something that was all about a great experience with the taxi business and then with the call center. My goal was not just to make a business we could answer the phones, but provide the best service you possibly can get if you're in transportation and you need someone to handle your customer service and dispatching. That was my goal. And to take care of our employees. And so that now, 10 years later, we've got great place to work in the Philippines. We have employees, we have we have under 25% attrition. So most call centers have over 100%. And to put that in perspective, every year you have to replace your entire workforce if you have over 100% turnover. And we're under 25%. So people working with us, the same person 3-4 years later is working with the same client. So you build this really great relationship and some cool stuff there. But I don't know. Long answer to your question there, but you had a lot of questions in there.
Yes, and thank you so much again for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Eric. At the outset, what did the scaling mean to you? Was it purely revenue, customer count, team size, or something else? And how has the definition evolved over the decade?
That is a great question. Uh, it has evolved a lot. In the early days, you just start throwing out numbers. You see other people with call centers with 5,000 employees. You're like, why not? Why can't we get to 1,000? And then, like these from the time I bought my partner out, and then for 3-4 years, we were stuck. We couldn't get the company growing any further. We couldn't increase headcount. We gained some customers and some went out of business or changed direction. So yeah, that definition has definitely changed multiple times throughout the 10-year journey. If you're a really great business leader, you should be thinking strategically. You should be planning ahead for the future. And that was something I've gotten way better at over the years, and I'm really proud of what we're doing now. But you should be thinking 3 years out, 1 year out, 6 months out, 3 months out. And in the past, yeah, we had like crazy ideas about growing, you know, revenue. We were focused on revenue. And then I've come to learn as our expenses increased faster than revenue, maybe that's not such a good thing. There's other things to focus on as a business owner. So yeah, and at first we're like, we want huge headcount. We want lots of people all over. And today, I want a sustainable business that's profitable so that we could grow for the future. We could like because we're not taking outside investments. So we need profits to be able to invest back. So as the business leader, I get to go out to the Philippines twice a year and talk to the team. And that's one of the big things I talk about. Like, look, we actually are very transparent with our goals, with our profit margins, with where we're taking things in the company, because we got to be clear that that those margins, that's what we reinvest back in the company so that you could do better event, like you could have more fun events, so that you could the birthday celebrations that we do for everyone, they don't think about the cost behind that. And so we get to educate everybody, and it's the same for any business around the world. Educate your employees on, really what it takes to run the company. There's so much expenses that people don't really think about. And if you want to have, like for us now, we've been since 2023, great place to work in the Philippines, something we're really proud of. And that takes investment. We have a person that's in charge of culture. That's a choice. We don't like companies don't have that position. We do a lot of big events for the staff. If you go and look up our social media, it's around the holidays right now. We just did a post about a local orphanage that we've been working with for years. And that's again taking part of our profits and deciding that we want to invest it back into the community and not just spend it on ourselves, put it in my pocket. And it's things like that's why we have low turnover. That's why we have clients that have been with us for years. So it all kind of is this nice little cycle.
Yes, good job, Mr. Eric, to empowering people all over the world through your business. What was the first, perhaps rudimentary business process you decide or they decided to augment or automate with AI? Why did you start there, and what was the immediate impact?
Ooh, these are some good questions. I haven't thought about that. So our journey with I think we're close to 3 years in. When Chat GPT came out into the scene, one of my clients that had a virtual assistant with us was a really early AI adopter. And I think every week is like, Eric, are you using it yet? Like, this is going to change the world. You need to get on here. And also, in the call center space, I think this is one of the things I've talked about, especially this last year. Yes, we're being disrupted. You know, AI is disrupting things unequally across the world. And I think if you're in the call center space, you're seeing it. And I think marketing is one of the other ones that's seeing it hit them drastically. Like, you need to adapt, or you might not be around in a couple years. Things are changing that quickly. So um, that because of that, because we were really early on, we had vendors that were implementing AI. We got to see the capabilities early on, like, wow, this thing could take phone calls. This could respond back to you in natural language. Uh, so with Chat GPT, our focus in our call center, this is our main job. We provide labor to answer the phones. But we saw this coming, and it's always been our focus. We don't want to do the easy calls. We want to do the more advanced calls. So, interesting thing for us. What impact has it had on us so far to date? Um, I would say minimal, because our clients that we work with already have been using so much automation, and that maybe 80 to 90% of their calls were already being automated. And so this AI isn't coming in doing more. It's about maybe a couple tiny bit more calls it's handling. It's handling them better. It's a better customer experience, but it's still not replacing the people. So get back to your question about what was the first thing we replaced. Because we weren't focused on the phones and replacing answering phones, we focused on leadership and management. And so I also have had an AI note taker be part of my meetings for almost 2+ years as well. And which is really amazing to go back and be able to search what anything was talked about in any meeting over the last 2+ years. So I would say one of the first things we started automating, note taking. And I know some people are still just now getting around to, like, oh yeah, I should have a note taker or use that thing. uh, there's a lot of pitfalls to go along with it. I could tell you one lesson I learned that I could share with your listeners here. If you haven't implemented it yet and you're thinking about it, um, make sure you're careful with the settings on who it emails out the transcript to or the notes, because maybe someone didn't join that meeting today and you decide to have a discussion about their performance, and they get an email with the summary of that discussion that you were not intending them to see, because your settings automatically email the summary to all the people invited. So look out for that. Don't make the same mistake. And there's other things that you'll have to learn as you go. But that is huge. And that was also the beginning starting point, because with that transcript, then you could do so much in your business. You can create SOPs, you can turn that into emails to inform staff about a change, directions to an assistant to create graphics in Canva, slides in Canva in Google Slides. It can go on and on. And so there was a lot of stuff we were able to automate it, but it began with being consistent and using the AI, everyone in the company, every leader in the company, using that note taking tool and actually taking it seriously. So that would be the first.
The AI landscape has changed dramatically in 10 years. How did you navigate the shift from older rule based system to a modern era of generative AI without getting distracted by the hype cycle?
That is a great question too, because the with AI and how it's changed over the years, uh, we really focus. I think my I'm fortunate enough that my perspective has been really focused on people and not can we replace people with AI, but how can we augment people? And I have this phrase I like to say: AI plus HI, artificial intelligence and human intelligence. It's those two together, and it's just like the laws of the universe. Like someone on their own is only going to go so far, and you bring other help in, you can go further. And so, yeah, one person on their own, bring in some AI, you can go a lot further than if you were by yourself. But what if you brought a team together with AI? You're going to go even further than the team without AI. So, like our focus has really just been on augmenting the people. And so because of that, and because we weren't focused on replacing people, I think we've been in a great spot. We didn't because I think sitting here December 2025, even my views on AI have shifted a lot, and what I think is possible in a business perspective. I think there was a lot of ideas that people were talking about in our company, talking about in the marketplace, on podcasts, on YouTube videos, on reels, about all the stuff AI could do. And it's almost annoying when someone brings up a business problem. They're like, just chat GPT it. Like, yes, that's going to get you some new solutions, but that's not going to necessarily guarantee to solve your problem just by going to chat GPT versus Google. It's still going to take thinking critically, bringing in, the best thoughts, maybe pulling, like, if you're talking about AI, pulling in some experts, some YouTube videos. Let's get some transcripts and some other people thinking about this. That'll get you further, but still, working with people. So that that's been our basis, and we for the last year we've been building our own software too, that listens to the call. We saw what's happening in the marketplace. Like, great, there's AI tools. We had 8 people in our company. Their full-time job was to listen to calls because we're a call center. We do a 500,000 calls a year, or no, 500,000 calls a month. So we need to be able to listen to them, making sure they're doing well. The ones that are not performing well, how do we get them better? And that's a very slow, laborious process. So now we have AI helping out. We have more time we're able to spend coaching staff, and we're not listening. We're not sitting behind computer screens listening to calls when, I mean, we run a good call center. Most of the time, they're good calls anyways. So we still have to listen to them. But I think that is, going back to the software we developed, it's focused on agent performance, not replacing people on the phone. Say, hey, this software, you could get rid of all these call center agents, and now you could use the software instead. Like, that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is we want our team spending more one-on-one time with the staff. How can we do that with the same team? And so that's where we brought the AI in. And so that if you take that approach to every part of your company where you're trying to implement AI, it's not how do you replace this team? How could you make this team better? No, there's some basic stuff that, yeah, you know what? Like, some of the things, we're not doing telegrams anymore or messenger pigeons. We're taking advantage of modern technology. So some stuff you're going to automate, but there's a lot of things where it's like, that process with a person is going to get you much further and get you better results for your business, for your clients, than if you just did it on your own.
Mr. Eric, as an entrepreneur, what are your short term and long term goals?
Well, how do I measure my long-term goals?
Yes, how? What are your short term and long term goals?
What are my short-term and long-term goals? Okay, so as an entrepreneur, and because we're at the end of the year here, it's a time of reflection, and I'm definitely thinking about that and where we're trying to be. So one thing is, we've been doing a lot of change in our company. We brought in a new COO this year. We've been changing all of our processes, bringing in new team members. It's been a bit exhausting, and I've been working a lot and traveling a lot. So one of my goals is, now that we're bringing on more support and I'm delegating more stuff to the team, I'm hoping to bring my workload from maybe like 60, 70 hours a week to like a manageable 40 hours. That's more of a short-term goal. Uh, we have about 200 employees in the Philippines, and we want to get that to, by the end of next year, about 300, and eventually 500 to 1,000, and maybe more. The market's huge, and I am a big believer in anything's possible, and never know what could happen tomorrow. So I leave that possibility open. And thinking out even further ahead, some other big dreams I have, um, is actually, I want to make documentaries and movies one day. I even got the clapboard back here. I made like short films with my kids.
Nice.
But that's one of my dreams, is to do that. So I actually saw an email from YouTube today congratulating me on my 19 years of being a YouTube creator. And I was like, 19, how long has YouTube been around? And they've been around for 20 years. So I was like, wow, I was really early on YouTuber. But I've always been making short films, and I've made some with my kids that I haven't released yet. It drives me crazy. But one of them I made a year ago, and I haven't. There's so much that has changed with AI, that in like video, like Veo 3, and what you could do now with AI and video. I think I'm gonna see what I could do to get back to this short film and maybe get it released. So, but I got to get this back in action. So that's some of the goals I got out there.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Eric, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be entrepreneur like you?
My advice is to, I think it starts with setting some goals. You got to know, and it's not just like, for years I said, I'm going to start a business one day. I just don't know what. And, I could spend the next 20 years saying the same thing, and maybe it'll be true one day. You could, average age people start business in the US is like 40, 45 or something years old. So I'm still under the average age, but that means there's people, you could look it up. There's people starting at businesses that are 60 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old. So age shouldn't be a factor. Uh, Also, family shouldn't be a factor. Like, I was driving around a taxi till 3 in the morning while my wife was pregnant. So we had enough money because we were just starting the call center, and we weren't making enough to cover. I wasn't making any money. We were losing money at the time. uh, so, like, you just got to go out there and start doing it, and setting the goal. Because if you don't know where you're going, it's very difficult. I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned these last couple years, is like, the more we can get our entire organization on the same page, and it's not just a meeting, company-wide meeting. This is what our goals are. That's all I did in the past. It's like reinforced every day, and every single weekly team meeting, and every metric. And so, but all of that starts with setting goals. And so, as I'm guessing by the time this gets out, it's still early in the year. You don't have to, maybe you're listening to this, listen to some old episodes from Daniel, trying to find some knowledge, and it's like June. Who cares? You could set a goal in June. You don't have to wait till January, but think of something that you could set. And for me, I keep my goal book close by. This is something I started in 2010, where I started writing my goals, and then I took a break for a couple of years. Now I'm really, really religious about it. But what was cool is the goals I wrote down were starting a business, my first business, getting a taxi business off the ground with 5 cars and no debt. So no debt. You were asking me in the beginning, about no outside funding. Well, to me, it was very important from the very beginning before I started my first company. I don't want to owe money to anybody. Um, but a couple of these almost all these goals came true, and then I made more, and then they all came true again, and they made so, and you get to see it. It makes it real because life goes by so quick. Next thing you know, it's like a decade later, and you're like, I haven't done, I've been going to work every day, I've been moving up in my career, but not hit. There's so much more I want to do, and life is short. So it doesn't matter if you're busy with your family, raising kids. If you got an idea, you got to be passionate about. But set some goals. Think about what you need to do to get that idea to the next level. And specifically for me, the goal I wrote, well, I think I said it, get the taxi business off the ground. And I also wrote, make a friend that likes to bike as much as me, complete the 48-hour film festival. That was another thing I did. So that friend I made that bikes as much as me ended up being my wife, and I met her 9 days after I started my first business. All of that because I started writing down my goals. So if you want to talk about the power of goal writing, there's your story right there.
Yes, indeed. And thank you for that advice. Mr. Eric, and can you please recommend a book of books that influence you, Johnny?
All right. So a book that influenced me. I'm looking back on my shelf here behind me, and there's a lot. But what is one that has been really influential? I, I, I'm gonna recommend this one because this is a problem that a lot of modern people face. And there's a skill set that we all need to have that no one ever taught us about, no one tells us about, and it does not really talked about enough. And that's our, I got it in my pocket here, our phones. Are these things right here, and just your computer in general. Even as a business owner, you could be like, I'm so busy, I'm answering emails all day. Like, you could answer emails 1,000 hours a week and you will not move your business forward. So this book here, uh, Indistractable by Nir Eyal. I don't know if I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. But this is a really great one to help you get focused, because we're surrounded by distractions. And I think it's not like, if you're starting your business and you're out on your own, there's no boss out there looking over your shoulder. You might have your spouse like questioning you about, like, what are you doing? It's 2 in the afternoon. Shouldn't you be working, doing meetings, not watching YouTube or something? You might have that, but aside from that, there's no one holding you accountable. And it could be very easy you could be on LinkedIn. I'm promoting my business, but you spent an hour scrolling on LinkedIn thinking, oh, I'm gathering market research. You could put it under all these buckets, right? But what does the screen time tell you at the end of the day? Like, is that 2 or 3 hours of screen time that you're spending, actually moving the needle on your business? And actually, another piece of advice too, you guys are looking for, like, where do I find the time to start a business? Well, look at the screen time on your phone, subtract an hour from that a day. There's 5 hours during the week, business week, Monday through Friday, that you could put, instead of scrolling on your phone, put it towards a business. And if you need more than an hour, take more time out of your screen time. Replace it with doing something for the business. But this book is really helpful. It gives you practical tips for the modern 2025 2026 person that's surrounded by distractions, on how to be focused and get stuff done. Because I think you could be a great leader, and if you're distracted by social media, by your devices, by whatever, and if you let that take control of your life, you will never be able to hit your goals. You won't be the leader you need to be to grow the idea that you have. So there's the book.
Yes. Thank you for
Indistractable.
that. Thank you for that, Mr. Eric. Recommended book. So before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. my other podcast because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season. I'm a book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in third season. And food 101 in sixth season. This December, geography 101 love letters. Movie 101 review. Music 101 fourth season. Science 101, sex 101 in its second season. My baby podcast, mental health 101 love letters and Bible verses 101 as well as entrepreneurship 101. Will you be my guest, Mr. Eric, on entrepreneurship 101?
Absolutely. And
Please,
I
please
wonder
do
what it
come on.
takes to be on your comedy show. Now, I'm not, I feel like if you, I just had this person talking about improv to business
Mhm.
leaders, and there's
Yes.
some parallel, we're presenting. And I think if you're good at improv, you'd be a good presenter for your business. But, another book I recommend from a comedian, Joe Coy, Mixed Plate, because much like Joe Coy, he's a lot of stand up comedy on online, but um, half Filipino, half American. And through his filmmaking, he's actually helped tell the story and a little bit of inspiration for me. I want to get my story out there because on YouTube, I made a short film that is called American Adobo like 20 years ago with like old cameras. And we really like, I want to refilm it. But he actually did half of the story I did and came out with the movie. So go out there and get your ideas because you never know. Someone else is going to take it and you'll miss out.
Yes, definitely. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Eric, the ultimate validation, reflecting on this entire decade-long journey, what moment of achievement made pause you and think, and what did it your way, and it was all worth it?
What made me pause and think over this last decade of being an entrepreneur? Well, I'd say the most impactful things that happened, there's two over the last decade, and it's the birth of my two daughters. And, it's a tough thing to challenge as a business leader because I have two kids, but a lot of business leaders you look at their business as a kid too, and many times it demands so much more than a kid. Your baby eventually stops crying in the middle of the night and needing diapers and grows up, and my oldest is 9 and she's pretty self-sufficient. But I don't know, your business is a bit worse. It's always demanding your time and wanting you to answer emails in the middle of the night and have to travel and make you have to keep reinventing yourself over and over and over. But you know what? It's like a parent too. Like I've had to reinvent myself so much, and I definitely will continue to have to as my kids turn into teenagers. My parenting skills need to change, and it makes you also a better business leader as well, because you got to really it goes back to people. Go making this whole thing full circle. We were talked about AI and people. Uh, the the better you become at working with people at where they're at. Like we've all got our personality types. We are who we are. If you're not a patient person, there is nothing in the world that's going to make you patient all of a sudden. You might hold your breath and curse under your breath and stuff and get through it. But that's not going to change about you. And there's other things about our personality. Like that's who we are. We could shift a bit and change those things. But ultimately, that's our personality. And the better we are at working with each other with that, like, hey, this person is not patient. And so they're wanting to get things done quickly and we better move along. You know, Understanding that dynamic and working together better, I think that's the thing. One of the big things missing out there in the world, we're just constantly thinking about ourselves, not thinking about others. And, that's true in the world, it's true in business. When you think about your staff as just numbers and means to the end, and they're not important part of, like, they're not people, humans. This is and I think with AI it's pushed that conversation. It's so much more important these days with like you have chat gpt or AI that could do a lot of stuff these days. And so, like, do you need an AI or do you need a person? Because if you got a person doing that job, let's treat them like a person. They've got family issues, they've got emotions, they've got things to deal with. And that's what it's tough about being a parent too. We want to tell our kids what to do, and we forget that there are people too, and they've got their whole day and their experiences and their emotions. And we want to treat them like employees and spend the 5 minutes giving them their feedback so we could move back onto our stuff. Doesn't work like that. So I think that's the big lesson I'm learning and will continue to learn as my kids get older. And so, yeah, so hopefully you parents out there or soon to be parents, draw some inspiration from your kids. There's a lot that could be learned from them.
Yes, a legacy to the world. And Mr. Eric, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that they're doing right now?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, you can find me packbiz.com and or on LinkedIn. Eric Mulvin, look me up on there.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Eric Mulvin because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering legacy like this will rise. So, Mr. Eric, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for having me on. Appreciate it.
Modicon people, see you soon.